your biggest setback is actually your greatest setup for success. Welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast, where I, your host, Alethea Felton, the Resilience Architect, have inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, those who are determined to rise above and thrive beyond life's challenges. Here, we celebrate the courage and hope that it takes to reclaim your power, rewrite your story, and step into the life that you were destined to live. For now is the time to create your power transformation. Season 3. Welcome to Season 3. I am overjoyed that the Power Transformation Podcast has made it to its third season, and it is because of listeners and followers like you that have made it possible. And what other way to kick off Season 3 than with the incredible guest that we have today, Mr. Toriano or Tory Lockett. His story of transformation is inspiring and uplifting. How he went from imprisonment to becoming a 7+ figure entrepreneur. And I have the honor of knowing his amazing wife, Toriano, for they are a power team in terms of real estate, coaching, and so much more. And we are going to dive right into this. And if this is your first time, I would like to welcome you here to the show. So much is going to be happening in Season 3, and we are audio only for right now, but stay tuned very soon for some upcoming announcements regarding that. I was at first going to stop the affirmations for Season 3, but I received feedback that said that the affirmations are helping my audience. They're helping you. And I want you to let me know, leave me feedback as to how these affirmations at the beginning of the show are transforming your life. And so we're going to dive right in here so that we can hear all that Tory has to say about his story, but also how you too can change your life. This is today's affirmation. I will say it, and then afterwards you repeat it. I am stronger than my challenges and wiser because of them. I am so excited today to have Tory Lockett. And as you all heard from this intro, this is a special guest based on the fact that I have met Tory through his amazing wife, and the fact that Tory has done so much, just not in his own life with his own family, but in terms of the community and the people around him. This is going to be such an exciting, inspiring interview. And Tory, welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast.
Thank you, Alethea. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. It is an honor to have you. And oh my goodness, what an incredible story you have. And I know that a lot of the world already knows it, but more people need to hear it. So we're going to jump right into this. Okay. And what I always like to do first, I like to just have a fun, random icebreaker question, just so we could get to know you more. Nothing about what we're going to talk about, but just fun. Okay. So, Tory, this is my question for you. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite meal of the day? And what is your favorite food? Like, what is something you could always eat? So is it breakfast, lunch, dinner? Then on top of that, what's your favorite food?
Okay, I'm going to say I'm going to have to be number one, salmon. Salmon, broccoli, and sweet potato.
Oh, that's good. So would you eat that for, say, lunch or dinner?
Probably dinner. Lunch, sometimes I eat it for dinner. Sometimes I eat it for lunch. Like yesterday, I ate it for lunch. So it varies.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So are you a pretty good cook too?
No, I'm far from that. I eat out 7 days a week, probably.
But ideally, it would be salmon, sweet potato fries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something, a salad or something. The salmon is my favorite. I can eat it every day.
Exactly. And the way that you answer so quickly that no, you aren't a good cook because y'all, he is from Alabama in terms of where he's from. So you automatically think of that good cooking.
That is
And
absolutely
see,
true.
yeah.
But
So
I'm far from that.
and so see, I'm from southeastern Virginia. So I'm right by the
Okay.
North Carolina line. And trust
Okay.
me when I say we are still Southerners here. So
Yeah,
I automatically think about good cooking when it
I
comes to
know.
the South. But
Now it is some good cooking. Now don't get me wrong. Now I'm just
yeah,
not doing the cooking.
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
Tori, thank you for that. That was just something random so that we could get to know you better. But I think that the real question next is
Mhm.
truly to ask you, Tori, if a person were to come up to you and say, "Who is Tory Lockett?"
Mhm.
How would you describe him?
I probably would say that first of all, I'm truly a man of God. You know, I like to put God first in everything I do.
Hmm.
I'm a family man. I love my family. I like to spend time with my family.
Yes.
And I'm an entrepreneur to my heart. I have an entrepreneur spirit. I think I've always been an entrepreneur since I noticed that when I was a little kid. So just in a nutshell, you know, just I like educating. I love to read. That's just me. I like exercising. So those are the things that, so I put God first, family, educating myself, and then being an entrepreneur that's my life. That's every
Yes,
day for me.
indeed. It is. And you're an entrepreneur, a husband, a father, a published author,
Oh,
so much
yes.
more.
Yes.
And your passion in terms of something that you really help people with is actually wealth building. And that is so beautiful. But before we get into that,
Hmm.
I brought up early about how your early upbringings were from Alabama, from the great
Hmm.
state of Alabama,
Hmm.
specifically Mobile, if I'm not
That
mistaken.
that is absolutely true.
Um, so the fact that you're this entrepreneur now as an
Hmm.
adult, take us back a little bit to your upbringing in Alabama and what was a pivotal moment in that early upbringing of your childhood that led you towards this path of
Okay.
entrepreneurship and personal transformation?
Well, the thing, so I grew up back in Mobile with my grandmother. My grandmother and grandfather, well, grandmother mostly raised me. And it was like seven of her kids living in the house. We lived in a shotgun house, and you know what a shotgun house is, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
as you can see straight through the front door out to the back
Hmm.
door. And so imagine a two-bedroom, one-bath home. I was living in this home. And me
Wow.
and my little brother was in there. Like me, my brother, my uncle, and my aunt, we all slept in the same room. And then we made the den like the dining room area out of a bedroom, and you walk right into the kitchen. That's how small the house was. But long story short, I was born and raised in Maysville, in a town called Maysville in Mobile, Alabama. And in my area, it was super drug infested. I mean, I could walk a block from my house and you would see drug dealers, prostitutes, robbers, everything you can name under the sun that crime is committed. We were surrounded by it as a young kid. But my thought was, from entrepreneurship perspective, and it was a negative experience, but I used to look at a lot of the drug dealers, and I'm like,
Mhm.
these guys are really getting this money out here. And I'm like, even though I was in school, I walked by this every day. So I was like, you know what? And my uncles and aunt, I had an uncle that was dealing drugs, and I had an aunt that was dealing drugs. So it was almost like I was surrounded by this environment to not miss this in a sense, because you're a product of your environment, in my personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? Whatever your environment is, that's what you're going to be in most cases. I would think. Some people make it out, some don't. But that was one of my pivotal moments in terms of recognizing. And my grandfather he owned a bunch of hit houses, and he owned a club.
Oh,
So he was an entrepreneur as well. So
oh,
my first experience because I used to help him out a lot. And like we used to go in there and put in the rock colas in his house. He used to serve food to his clients. And so I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. I don't want to work for nobody. I want to be an entrepreneur, you know?
yeah.
But I realized that at an early age, yeah. And from there, it just kind of took off. I ended up, I don't know how far you want me to go with this
Yeah,
at the
so
moment, but
yeah,
yeah.
so we can start there. So when you said an early age, approximately how old were you when you actually started these entrepreneurial endeavors? And yes,
Right.
although we acknowledge the fact that maybe it wasn't what's considered the most positive aspect, it's just the
Mhm.
fact you had that keen
Mm.
insight in
Mm.
knowing that, hey, I can make money and make something lucrative off of this that can continue growing. So, how old approximately were you when you actually connected
Well,
that?
let me take a step back. So when I was
Yeah.
younger, I realized that, and me and my cousin, we used to cut grass all the time in the neighborhood.
Oh,
So, our parents like, "Man, y'all gonna have to, we wanted to go to a concert. Guess what we had to do? We had to go out and make some money. If we wanted to go to the skate ring, we had to go out and make some money. So we would cut
mhm.
grass and hustle. And I think that was my first initial step. And then as I got older in high school, I had friends that was, dealing drugs, and I ended up, and I saw that what they was doing. They would spend $100 and make $200, buying these drugs. And I'm like, hey, y'all doubling y'all money. What y'all doing? Let me figure this out. I'm too slow up here. I'm doing all this labor work and I'm cutting grass. I might need to go over here and spend $100 so I can make $200 out. So once I
Yeah.
figured out that the math that, hey, I can spend $100 buying these drugs and double my money. And I just started scaling from there. I was probably about, I would say 14 or 15 when I first started dealing in drugs. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
About 15 years old. And then it was just, it was amazing. But most guys I hung out with were always older than me.
Exactly. And
Yeah. So
so
I was a
you,
younger guy.
yeah. And so almost in a sense, you were learning or being apprenticed informally in a way of how to learn this whole drug game and how to make it an actual lucrative empire. And so as you grew up
Mhm.
older, into
Mhm.
this type of a lifestyle, because of the
Mhm.
fact this was how you knew how you could make money, make it grow, as you kept moving up the ranks with it, tell us about a challenging time in your life that happened that was really a turning point and a catalyst. And what I'm talking about, Tori, is a huge part of your story and testimony, frankly, is you ended up imprisoned. But I'm talking to you now and you're a free man. So
Mhm.
take us there in terms of that significant prison sentence and what
Okay.
happened in terms of that challenging experience becoming
Okay.
a turning point for your life and your career?
Absolutely. So I was around 22 when I got arrested because I started at 15, but I started scaling from small drug dealer to a large drug dealer. I
Mhm.
went from rocks to kilos.
Wow.
So when I was at the age of 22, I ended up getting busted from a friend of mine. Well, not a friend, but a guy that I was giving drugs on consignment. He ended up cooperating and telling on me. So I ended up getting caught in my aunt's home. I was in there with a friend of mine. They kicked the door down, and when I went to prison, I was in the county jail. Long story short, I'm thinking, hey, I'm gonna get out of here the next. I'm gonna get me a lawyer and I'm gonna be out. But the federal government picked the case up, and was no coming home. It was
Mm.
like when I went to court, they said, "Son, you're facing 360 months to life."
Wow.
And that's actually where the title of my book came from when I said 360 months. And I don't know if you're really familiar with 360 months, but that's 30 years to life. And I was imagine being, I've never really been in no serious trouble. I've probably been to the county jail, but never been locked up. We just went in and got out from a traffic ticket. So it was nothing serious. So now this was very serious for me. Here I am, 22 years old with a 6-month-old daughter, just had a baby, about to go to prison for 30 years to life, pretty much.
Mm.
So that was the starting point for me. But then I ended up going to federal prison. And when I got to federal prison, I ended up doing 14 years total. But my 11th year in prison, I was in Coleman, Florida. It might have been my 12th year, but I was in Coleman, Florida. And my aha moment was the fact that, because I was playing the blame game on everything that I was doing, I blamed everything, all my problems, I blamed on my parents. I blamed on God. I blamed on
Mhm.
my auntie. I blamed on everybody but myself. But one day,
Tori,
uh-huh.
let me pause you here
Mhm,
real
mhm,
quick because I think this is significant.
mhm,
When you initially heard you could get 30 years to life,
mhm.
take us back to that moment. How did you process that? Or did you say this can't be real? Take us back to that moment.
So when I first heard that, I'm like, first of all, I didn't even register in my mind.
Mhm.
So when I went back to my cell after being sentenced, I really just sat there and started adding it up. And I'm like, man, because they were trying to give me a life sentence. And when you get life in the feds, they put deceased on your paper. That means you never come home. So imagine a young man at 22 years old, and they gave me 30 years. So they gave me the bottom end of the guidelines. And really, I couldn't believe it. I was so thrown. I thought it was a fantasy, but until I realized it was reality. It was like, I almost it was like tears coming to my eyes when I went back to the cell because I was tore up. I'm like, man, I lost everything just from selling some drugs. They're gonna throw. It's like it was like I murdered somebody. Did I really kill somebody? These are the thoughts that were going in my mind at the time. Even though I had all these character witnesses up there telling people that, hey, Tory was a good guy, and I didn't cause no trouble, but hey, the federal government didn't want to hear it. All they want to know is, hey, you was out here selling drugs, you're gonna pay the price.
Exactly. And so when you started off in the county jail, which is of course still in Alabama, how in the world did you end up in Florida?
Well, actually, my first prison I was sent to El Reno, Oklahoma, first of all. So the federal marshals came and picked us up from the county jail, took me and some other guys. We actually went to New Orleans, Louisiana. We drove from Mobile to Louisiana, and we got on a federal government plane, and we were all shackled down. You talking about scary, because you got guys that had masks on their face and all this stuff because they was really dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So I am a little small guy from Mobile, Alabama. I really got myself in some serious trouble. You know what I'm saying? So we get on this government plane and they fly us around. They flew us to Miami and then to Fort Lauderdale, then back out to Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City is like a holdover that you sit there and I was going to El Reno, Oklahoma, which was about 30 minutes from that county jail. The holdover, the federal holdover. So I went to El Reno for 3 years. This was a penitentiary for the federal government. And I was there with Timothy McVeigh, like John Gotti brother.
Wow.
I was.
That's big time.
This was a gang infested prison. The first day I got on the compound in the federal prison, I watched the guy get his head split wide open, bust wide open. I'm like, the first day I ain't even. I'm like, what I got myself into? I'm surrounded by gangster disciples, Crips and Bloods. Aryan Brotherhood, every gang you can think of was on this campaign.
And for viewers and listeners who might be unfamiliar, since I do have some global watchers, when he said Timothy McVeigh, that was a huge case back in the 1990s of the Oklahoma City bomb, where that was a major historic, tragic event because so many babies got killed, people got killed. He blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City. So that's major. He eventually passed away, but still, just the fact you were there. And then, of course, when you said John Gotti's brother, wow, criminal mastermind. This was actually creme de la creme in a negative way, y'all, in terms of who you would be in prison with.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And this was the first time you ever got arrested.
Absolutely. Wow. So how did I go from so how did I end up at Coleman is the fact that I stayed at Oklahoma for 3 years. And I was an associate warden. She was a black lady. And I kept telling her that I wanted to get moved from there, because there was so much, I was 17 hours away from home. I had one visit probably the whole 3 years I was there. And so she ended up getting me shipped to Alabama, to Talladega, Alabama. Okay. So I felt like I was at home when I got to Talladega. I actually felt like I was free, to be honest with you. So imagine going from one federal prison to the next and feeling like you're free. That's how impactful it was when I got to Talladega. So I stayed in Talladega for like 4 to 5 years. And then I ended up going to a lower security because I ended up getting a time reduction from the 360 months to 180 months, which was 15 years.
Wow.
So when my security dropped, so I went from a penitentiary to a medium. Talladega was a medium prison. Then I went to a camp, which was right here in Atlanta. And when I got to the camp in Atlanta, I didn't know how to act. I was so free. They allowed us to do so much. So I actually got in trouble while I was there because
Oh.
yes, I got caught with a cell phone, and we was leaving and coming back, all kind of crazy stuff. So I ended up getting put in the penitentiary in Atlanta behind a 40-foot wall right here at downtown Atlanta penitentiary. So I stayed in the whole 1 year there. And to be honest with you, 1 year in the penitentiary in Atlanta, I'd rather do 10 years somewhere else than to do 1 year in Atlanta penitentiary because
Really?
it was that bad. You're talking about 4 inmates sleeping in the same cell at one time, and you only got 2 bunks in there. You take a shower once a week. You know what I'm saying? You really don't get no visits or none of that. So I stayed there a year, but after leaving there a year, after getting shipped, I got shipped to Coleman, Florida. And when I got to Coleman, Florida, that's where everything kind of shifted for me. That's where the aha moment came. And I realized that I was playing the blame game because one day I called my aunt on the phone and I asked her for some money because all the inmates in prison, they always need money. Just, So when I called her for some money this time, she was like, well, I can't give it to you right now, you know. And I'm like, I got upset. I was like, okay, I kind of hung the phone up and left. But at that moment, something came over me. I realized it was just God speaking to me, but it was saying that, hey, son, you got to accept responsibility. You can't keep blaming everything on everybody else. You can't blame it on me. You can't blame it on your parents. You can't blame it on nobody but yourself. You made this choice. And when I accepted that responsibility, right then and there, in that moment, my whole life changed. Everything shifted right there. But sure.
So even knowing the fact when you went in, you had a 6-month-old, that had to have been eating at you over the years, knowing that you weren't there to be there in the early years and the upbringing of your child. So
Absolutely.
what was it about God's voice speaking to you that finally clicked to say, I can't keep living like this. I have to do something different?
It was just a feeling. It was a feeling. It was like God spoke to me directly, like, listen, you cannot keep blaming this or playing the blame game, son. You got to accept. Once I said I'm gonna accept responsibility and move forward, and that my mama ended up sending me a Bible about a week later after that, and I started reading the Bible. I started getting all these self-help books, learning because I started kind of changing my mindset then at that point, and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur when I got out, so I started hanging around inmates in there that was actually entrepreneurs, but just got in trouble and was in prison, but they understood the game,
Yes.
So I started hanging around guys like that was teaching me the game. And one of the guys that was a good friend of mine in there, he told me one day, he said, hey, Tory, he said, man, if you want to make it in this world, you got to get out of here. He said, you got to change your approach. He said, you got to change your attitude. And it pissed me off, because I'm thinking, who you talking to? Tell me, but he was telling me, right, I ain't really accepted well at that time. But later on, I realized what he was doing, and it changed my life. You know what I'm saying? I realized that I had to put on the big boy pants. I had to change the game. So after I started reading these self-help books and reading the Bible, I started going to church and inside the institution. And everybody started calling me Mr. Positive. That's how much I changed. You know what I'm saying? It was an amazing transformation. It was like I was physically locked up, but my mind wasn't locked up no more. It changed the game for me.
That is so beautiful because faith for you is definitely a cornerstone of your transformation.
Absolutely.
And the way that you embrace faith and how it took a part in your journey, not only while you may have been physically incarcerated, it's just the beauty of the fact that you were spiritually liberated. And so you knew that once you got out, you had to stay on the straight and narrow. And so that leads me to when it was finally time for you to be released and you come out of prison. Take us to that moment of how you made up your mind without a shadow of a doubt that you did not want to end up down this path again. And you actually subsequently started a commercial cleaning business. And you took that and Tory, you transformed that into a 7-figure enterprise.
Absolutely.
So take us on that journey of you leaving prison, how you had to get reacclimated to your daily life, and how you chose to say, look, I'm going to make something of myself because this is what God intends for me to do.
Absolutely. So Man, I get chills every time I think about this. So the day I left prison, I mean, it was a feeling like no other. When I tell you it was a feeling like it's almost, I don't even know what heaven felt like, but it probably felt like
I'm
but,
sure.
but it was a feeling that I can't even really explain to you, to be honest. But I had two friends of mine that come pick me up. They came and picked me up from Coleman, Florida. And I had one outfit that a friend of mine sent me in the books, the paperwork that I had. So I left that day. They drove me to Atlanta, Georgia, to the halfway house. And when I got to the halfway house, each one of them gave me $100 a piece. And, we kind of just shook hands, did our manly thing. And when I got out that car that day and got to the halfway house, I couldn't believe. I mean, I'm actually in the real world now. I got to start all over after being gone 14 years in prison. I got to make something happen. So when I get in the halfway house, first thing I got to do, I got to find a job. So I think about it. I've been gone 14 years. So who gonna hire me? So I was catching the buzz, going out looking for jobs, trying to do interviews, but nobody would hire me because of my background. So there was this young lady that owned a security company. Her and I think it was her husband, and she gave me an opportunity.
Wow.
My first job was a flashlight cop, believe it or not, coming out of prison.
Wow. The irony of that.
So my first job was a flashlight cop. So and I was making $7 an hour, but I had to get a halfway house 20% of that. So imagine the mindset I got to have. You know what I'm saying? So I went from that mindset. I was working for a pharmaceutical company here in Alpharetta, Georgia, as a flashlight cop. I love the job. It was pretty good, but I always had my vision. I kept my vision. I kept God in front of me because I knew where I was heading. Now, there were situations where people would come to me, guys, and man, you gonna do this, trying to give you drugs again. But I was so focused. I was determined to do things the right way this time and scale my business. So I went from that to several odd jobs to meeting a friend of mine that started a commercial cleaning business, and she was very successful. So I helped her a few times, and after helping her for a while, she said, "Tori, listen, it's time for you, maybe try your own thing. You want to try this, because she knew what I wanted to do. First of all, let me back up. I started a personal training business out because I had got certified while I was in prison.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So I started that business. That lasted a little while, but I didn't have the business acumen then. I didn't have it all the way together on the positive side as well as the business side of it. So it didn't last long. But when I got into the commercial cleaning side, I learned a little bit from Dale, which was a good friend of mine that owned it, and she was making like $500,000 a year. And I'm like, I want some of this. So long story short, I ended up borrowing some money from my wife's credit, $700, bought some used equipment, started the cleaning company, and from there, I went from $7 an hour to borrowing $700 from my wife to creating a seven-figure commercial cleaning business, and I would start cleaning up colleges. I was a subcontractor with one company, and the first contract they gave me was a $40,000 job.
Wow.
And I didn't know what I was doing. At all. But what I did know was, you know what? Let me go find somebody I know that know what they're doing, even if I don't make all the money. So I went and got some guys that knew what they were doing. We went to South Carolina to this hospital, stayed in the hotel for a week, did a strip and wax job. And I think that week I walked away with like $5,000.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, oh, this is it. So I went from there to then they offered me a contract at a college called Georgia Southern University. And I went from there to making six figures in 3 months. And then I went from that to making $250,000 every 3 months. Then I went from there to almost making $500,000 because I got another contract with a private school. I started a whole nother company with another guy, and I was doing a private school here in Atlanta, Georgia called Pace Academy. We were the first Blacks to enter this school to do cleaning or any type of private service. But we had a $1 million contract with them. So I was like, hey, I was making money hand over fist. And I'll be honest with you, I was blowing a lot of it initially, but I learned a concept. My grandmama always taught me, live below your means. That's the only thing that saved me. Even though I was spending a lot of money, I still was living below my means or within my means. And that taught me a valuable lesson, but that was...
Woo. So I want people to really understand this because, you shared your story so much, but I'm glad it still humbles you enough where you still get chills and just are in awe thinking about how you went from literal imprisonment with the possibility of not ever getting out
That's right.
to having the miraculous happen. That's a miracle that
That's
you
a
got
miracle.
14
That's
years
it's a miracle. It's a
and
miracle.
able to get out, use that entrepreneurial spirit for good,
Mm.
continue that transformation. And the question I kind of want to go back to now is this: the fact that you said to really get started, you that your wife pretty much helped you plant that seed into
Mhm.
getting that business started.
Mhm.
Tori, how in the world did you feel knowing that you had a wife that stuck with you through all of this? Because
Well, let me back up. Let me back up. So
okay.
so my wife, let me tell you that story. So she wasn't the one who I was with before I went to prison.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So what happens is when I got out of prison, I had a cousin of mine that introduced me to my wife. While I was at the halfway house, I met my wife while I was at the halfway house. Well,
Oh my,
I was on house arrest. So I was staying with my sister on house arrest.
yeah.
So me
Oh
and my
my,
wife talked on the phone. She didn't even know I was incarcerated. I had anger. She didn't know none of that. So we talked for 6 months on the phone. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of getting to know each other.
yeah.
And as soon as I was released on, because I had 6 months of halfway house. So as soon as I was released from that, I met her at a club here in Atlanta, Georgia, in Roswell. And from there, we hit it off. And about a year later, I think maybe, we got married. And we've been married, 14 years?
Wow. But it's just the fact though, even after she found out you had
She
been
stuck with me.
in
She
prison,
stuck with me.
she
She
stuck
stuck
with
with
you.
me. Absolutely, she did. She stuck with me.
Wow.
She knew I guess, because and she was more so the breadwinner when I first met her.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of women probably wouldn't have done that, but I guess she saw the potential. I guess she took the risk and decided, hey, look,
Yeah.
I see the potential in him, and I'm gonna ride with him. I'm gonna stick with him. But that's kind of how I look at it.
Exactly. And that's really a blessing. And that could be a whole other episode in and of itself
Yeah,
about the fact that she stuck with you and saw something that God had shown her in you,
that's right.
regardless of where y'all are now. I'm just talking about then, just
Hmm.
the initial fact where she trusted something in you enough to say, I will give you this money. Let's make this happen. And
Hmm.
the fact you've been able to have it to grow. And so I bring that up because what would you say to a person, Tori, who might be almost at the point of hitting rock bottom? Maybe
Hmm.
they weren't in prison, but had something
Hmm.
else going on where they're
Hmm.
literally starting over.
Hmm.
So, what would you tell a person who is trying their best to hold on to their faith and to integrate faith into their
Hmm.
own paths to success? What would you tell them?
Right. From my experience, I would share. First of all, if they got faith in God, that's number one for me.
Mhm.
But I also become a avid reader. I love to read. I don't waste my time. Everything I do, I try to get a return on my investment. So I'm
Mhm.
an avid. And when I say read, I like to read a lot of self-help books. I go to a
Yeah.
lot of seminars. So I hung around the right people to because your environment is key. I learned from the past that the reason I probably got into the drug game because of the environment that I was in. So I figured if I got into a positive environment and the guys that were ahead of me, I would soon be like them if they were very successful. So
Mhm.
I would highly recommend that a person actually um, read a lot, get around the right people, uh, because mindset is so crucial. If you ain't got the mindset, I don't care how much you want to make money, how much because a lot of people want to get reach to the goal or get the result before without
Mhm.
becoming a person first. So I would just say, hey. Anybody could turn their life around. If I can do it, if I could come from my situation after doing 14 years in prison, start over, turn my life around, anybody can do it.
Mhm.
So I would definitely share with them to keep the faith, have faith in God, and get around the right people. Because if you get around successful people, that's number one. And don't never give up because behind every disruption, when you're intending to do something, there's going to be some resistance. There's going to be some disruption in your life,
Mhm.
and a lot of people give up too fast. So I would just
Mhm.
say, be consistent and stay the course.
And the fact of the matter is that when you did this cleaning business, you didn't stop there, but also you eventually got into real estate investing. which was really a game changer for you. So how did you decide that you wanted to go into that? And a person might see your experiences now and say, wow, it must have been smooth sailing for him. So, how did you get into that real estate investing? And what challenges have you experienced on this road of entrepreneurship? Because it's one thing to earn seven figures, it's another thing to maintain it and to have it to grow.
Okay, so first of all, let me throw this out there. There's definitely some challenges, and I'll say this right off the top. All throughout my years, and I'll be honest, I probably lost $300,000-400,000 or more. And my first deal in real estate, I lost like $100,000. Because I didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and I was trusting people and didn't really understand the game. But the cleaning business was my cash cow. So I knew I needed to have something to generate wealth. I knew that entrepreneurship and real estate were two of the biggest wealth builders in America. I understood that piece. So I knew I had an active income, but I also needed a passive income. I always used to hear, your money needs to be working for you just as hard as you're working for the money.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that made me really dive into real estate, and I started flipping because I like flipping. Because I was flipping cars before I got into real estate.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was in the car business too for a minute. So that just kind of reminded me of the drug game in a sense, but it was in a positive aspect. So, but I got into real estate, and that's the biggest thing I'm doing now today. So what I do now is just I buy properties and flip them, and I buy properties and hold them throughout Georgia and Alabama currently. But this was something that the cleaning business definitely allowed me to propel into real estate, and it allowed me to be able to start a course and create a program to help other entrepreneurs to build wealth through real estate and entrepreneurship as well. And like and to write the book, of course. I know you mentioned that before. So it allowed me to become an author. So the things that we're doing now, my mission now, and my wife, our mission now is to help close the wealth gap in America by creating more entrepreneurs and real estate investors.
Exactly. And you all do that through
The Built for Wealth Academy.
Yes, the Build for Wealth Academy. And also, you all still do UTV coaching.
Yeah. So we rebranding now. So UTV was initially, so we rebranding now. UTV is going to be converted over to the Built for Wealth Academy.
Built for Wealth Academy.
We changing the name now. So same concept, just different name.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the key part of that, and I like how you were just so honest about the fact that you've had some losses over the years, but that didn't keep you stagnant or stuck. Instead, you learned from them, because financial literacy, leveraging credit, all of that are crucial for building wealth. So what are the importance, Tori, of those concepts? And in what ways do your mentees through your academy, what are some challenges they face, and how do you help guide them to overcome those obstacles?
Okay, one of the challenges is the fact that when you're teaching, I've learned that you have to be very disciplined. You have to practice discipline when you're taking these courses, because a lot of the work is not just, I can tell you what to do or give you all the information, but if you're not motivated to actually go execute the information, and it's more mental. I found that a lot of my students wasn't executing because they hadn't changed the mindset. They still was trying to have the same mindset and have the same habits, but you're trying to get a different result over here. You want to raise $100,000 or $200,000 to go start a business or to get into real estate, but you hadn't shifted your mindset. You looking at the course, but you got to apply what you read. You have to apply whatever it is that you're doing. I think that's the most important thing, because so many people out here try to just read a book and whatever and think that I can go start a course. No. You got to have some experience. You got to apply. You got to go out here and practice.
That's true.
And make some mistakes.
Yeah.
I heard Warren Buffett say one time, I wouldn't invest in nobody who had made mistakes at least 2 or 3 times. So the key thing I'm seeing in a lot of my clients is the fact that the mindset is the key. So we had to bring in the mindset piece and restructure. So that's why we bring Darby's action up. So Darby went and took up a life coaching course. So now we implemented the mindset piece along with the fundraising and the premium value offer is the actual real estate side.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But definitely just having the right mindset. It's the mindset is the key. That's.
And that mindset shift was definitely even crucial for your success. And so when a person hears about mindset, because, it's become more of a buzzword in 2024, although I know that when you started shifting your mindset, it wasn't even popular back then.
That's true.
But people were doing it. And so even with me having that life coaching experience and background, you are correct in that mindset is important. So for a person listening and saying, okay, I hear him talking about mindset, but what is at least one or two practical steps that a person can do to even start shifting that mindset into a more wealth building type of mindset?
I would say that for me, first of all, I would say, have a relationship with God first and foremost. You got to have faith. Faith is number one. I mean, that's for me now. I can't speak for nobody else, but if God said he can do something, I believe it, and I'm gonna put it to the test. So you got to have faith. You got to be able to realize that you got to be looking forward to something. You got to have some anticipation. You got to have a vision. If you don't have a futuristic outlook and being able to execute this every day, you got to do something every day to get yourself to the next level. Because if you don't do that, you're gonna get off course. They say use it or lose it.
That's
so
right.
If I teach you something and you don't use it, that means you're gonna lose it. So I would say the number one thing is to have faith. Faith was my glue that held me together out of anything else. Faith and just and having the tenacity to not giving up. Because you're gonna run into obstacles and get around the right people. If you're around the right environment, it's almost impossible for you not to be successful. If like Steve, I think I heard Steve Harvey, somebody say this the first time when I came on for president. They say if you're the smartest person in your group, you got a problem.
That's right. Yeah. Yes.
So I would get around people that's smarter than me, that's in the industry that I want to be in and be involved in, and I would learn from them. I would hang around them. I would just suck them up as much as possible. That would be the first thing I would do. That's what I would advise somebody, because that's probably there's no easy road to success, but if you can follow somebody's success and the obstacles they've been through, they can kind of help you cut through the chase or give you some shortcuts on where you can get there a lot faster if you execute it.
And part of that trap, I think sometimes people can easily fall into is that they can hold themselves back sometimes just by being caught with doubt and fear. And when you're shifting that mindset, is not to say that you won't have some fear, but there's a way that you have to move past that. And so, Tori, along your journey of where you are now, how did you overcome those type of emotions of having doubt and fear on this road to entrepreneurship? I know that you had your faith, but was it based on your support system, confidence in yourself? How did you kind of push past those? Because we deal with human emotions.
Well, definitely, it definitely was faith, but outside of faith, it was because faith allowed me to have the confidence. So it allowed me to say, hey, I'm just going to use a scripture in the Bible. It says I can do all things through Christ. When it tells me that, in my mindset, I felt like I could, no matter the obstacles I faced, I felt like I could do all things. So when I ran into an obstacle, I prayed a lot. I hung around the right people that I said, man, if they could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
So I would hang around people who were successful, who was ahead of me. And that was my support group.
Yeah.
Those are people, we all had like minds. We always talked about business. We always talked about money, whatever it is, because if you're outside that circle of, is either you're going to be influenced or somebody going to influence you. So you're going to be influenced or somebody going to, there's no, ain't no other way around it. You know what I'm saying? So I started hanging around people who, even with my marriage, I started hanging around people when I wanted to, learn about relationships, because I had to learn that all over. I started hanging around my cousin because he was married and seeing how he was treating his wife and doing all that stuff. So same thing with business. You have to kind of get around a person who's doing what you want to do in life. So I would highly recommend I go to seminars and and educate myself. Education is key. You got to educate yourself in whatever field you're in. I don't care what type of situation you're in. If you educate in the area you're in, nothing can stop you. And you gotta have the you gotta have the tenacity. I just didn't give up. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't let nothing stop me. I had the mindset that either do or die. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can explain.
It makes complete sense. And even you sharing that transformative experience in your book 360 to Life is really a transformative guide for those who are trapped in life's prisons. Maybe you're not in a physical prison cell, but so many people stay in chains throughout their life. And so when you decided to write the book, what was one of the key messages that you wanted to convey to the people so that they could use what they read in the book towards their own life?
One of the key messages was the fact that if I could do this, if a guy could come from prison, out of federal prison, doing 14 years with $200 and the outfit on his back and create a 7-figure business, anybody can do it, no matter what your situation look like.
Yeah.
I know they always say somebody have a worse situation than you, but I'm sharing my story because I want them to hear that part first. Because if I can do this, I can't see why anybody can't do it. You know, I truly believe that anything can be learned. You know, if you truly want to get it. You know, you just got to get in the right environment and get around the right people. So the main thing would be just to turn your life around, no matter what the situation you're in. My situation should be a testimony to let people know that you could do this, no matter what you're facing in life. Bad relationships, on drugs, whatever the case may be, you could turn your life around and make a difference in somebody's life.
And it shows that it can happen at any age too, because
at any age.
I have come across people who think they're too old or it's too late. No, as long as you have breath in your body, it's still time for you to make changes. There are people who don't. I've read about so many people and know people personally who are multi-millionaires now who didn't even reach that status until they were over 45 or over 40 or over 50.
Yes.
Exactly, over 50. It's not too late. If you really want to change something in your life, you can do it. And when you have that Built for Wealth conference that you and your wife also host, you know, I think that's also key. And so when you all do that conference, what are some highlights of that conference, and how can attending those types of events contribute to a person's personal and professional growth?
Well, for one, we have several phenomenal 7-figure speakers. They're going to be discussing the different areas. Like, say, for example, I'll be talking about credit and funding. That's very key to being an entrepreneur or get into real estate. Budgeting. We're going to be talking about how to get into real estate, how to start your own private company. We're going to be talking about government contracting. That's key. A lot of people don't know how to deal with the government.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level. And I'm just trying taxes, how to save on taxes. Because guess what? Guess what the rich do? The rich understands that debt, because you got good debt and bad debt.
That's
debt,
right.
Knowing how to leverage debt is the key to building wealth. Rich people don't use their own money. They use other people's money and they save on taxes. So those are the two biggest things that we have to learn as a culture to get us to the next level, because we don't look at tax breaks and all that as money back in our pocket. And we're afraid of that. Most poor-minded people are afraid of that. So in that conference, we'll be sharing all of these details about how you can actually take this. And we got people that offer courses in each one of these sectors, like home ownership. You know, how real estate can help you build wealth. How becoming an entrepreneur can help you build wealth. I mean, these are all the things that we're going to be sharing. Marketing, from a marketing and sales point of view, everything that's kind of dealing with business is going to be shared at this conference on how to build wealth.
And when is the conference going to be?
Well, we've got an October date right now. We don't have an exact date, but we pushed the date back to October. We know the month is October. We haven't came up with an exact date yet. We'll probably come up with that by the end of this month, the exact date.
That's fine. And by the time this actually airs and is launched, I'll have an exact date, and so I can give an update as to when the exact date will be. And so Tori, as we start to come to a close here with this interview,
Mhm,
family is so important to you, but
mhm,
just not with your own family, but people you've met over the years who have become family. And so,
mhm.
how do you envision your legacy and what effect do you want to leave on this world and for future generations?
Oh man, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." So my biggest thing is when I leave this earth, I want my daughters, I want my granddaughters, I want them to understand how wealth is built and understand how not only how it's built, but how to utilize it. Because so
Mhm.
many, it pains me to see so many of our people that don't understand how to build wealth, how money really works. Because if you got money problems, you got a whole lot of problems. I
Mhm.
can tell you that with you now. So that's one of the biggest things I want to build. When I lead this earth, I want to be known for helping people to understand that no matter where you are in life, like you said, you can be. I got a client that's 78 years old, and it inspires me that, and she buying real estate.
Wow.
She went to my course.
At
78,
78, y'all. Oh my
78 years old.
gosh. Oh, I love that.
78. So my thing, my legacy would be for known for actually making a difference in this world, helping, uh, 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 I guess, our culture,
Mhm.
Black and brown people
Yeah.
to understand how wealth is built. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
then don't be afraid of that. You know,
Mhm.
because that's just part of building wealth.
Mhm.
You know, so just leaving that legacy is so important to me when I leave this earth. That's the main thing. I want to be
Yeah.
known as a good father, and when my kids have these properties or whatever it is, the assets that I lead them, the finances that I lead them, and then they just pass it down and keep building on helping others to do the same thing.
Mm. Tori,
Mhm,
in thinking about people who knew you before where you are now, so when they knew you in the heyday of your
mhm,
drug life, whether
mhm,
it's your family or your friends,
mhm,
but especially, I guess, more so with your family,
mhm.
what effect did your transformation have on the people around you?
Well, to be honest, some got it, some didn't.
Mhm.
So, um, just seeing me, and still a lot of them don't get it, to be honest with you. I mean,
Mhm.
even my closest family members,
Yeah.
uh, they'll ask me questions and say, and they say they want to change their life, but nobody really want to execute, and it pains me because if I got the house on the hill, I want to see my family with the house on the hill. And not saying that's material. I'm just saying,
Of course.
yeah, I'm just sharing with you. So if I got a good lifestyle and I'm successful, of course you want people around you to be the same way,
Mhm.
But when it's just hard to get across people that's close to you because they still looking at you as the person who you were before.
Mhm.
You follow
Wow.
me?
Yes.
You still an ex-drug dealer. You still the guy who did whatever you did when you was out on those streets.
Mm.
It's hard for people to close to you to actually get it.
Mhm.
And you would think it would be just the opposite, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's the people who don't know you that get it the fastest.
Exactly. It's almost like how that scripture says a prophet is not wanted in his own home, where you could be given all of the jewels and giving them the keys to unlock the door, but if
So
they're not
true.
ready, they aren't ready.
So
And if
true.
any of our listeners or viewers wanted to learn more about you, how can they find out more about the work you are doing? Do you have a website, social media, things of
Absolutely.
that nature?
You can go to www.com, the builtforwealthconference.com. You can go to UTVFC, which we'll be changing here soon, over to
Yes.
We're on Instagram as UTVFC. We're on Facebook as UTVFC, and we have a website with UTVFC as well.
Exactly. And I'll have all of that in the show notes. And as we come to a close, Tori, if you think back to that
Mhm,
22-year-old man who really didn't even know if there was going to be any hope left,
mhm.
and who you are now, what would you say to your 22-year-old self?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would probably say to do things differently, or you just saying just in general.
Just in general,
I
what
would
would you say to
to my
that
22-year-old
22?
self.
Yes,
I
sir.
was I would say to that 22-year-old guy, I would say, son, whatever you do in life, uh, to be successful, make sure that you position your, first of all, have faith, and then put yourself in the right environment around the right people so that I think environment is key. So I would tell him, just get in the right environment and make sure that you keep the faith, put God first. And I promise you, you can never go wrong, because God said with plans in your head and plans in your heart, you can never lose. And I believe that.
Tori Lockett, it has been a joy having you on the Power Transformation podcast today. Your story is absolutely incredible, and I just know that God is going to continue taking you and your wife and your entire family to places where you can't even imagine. Keep the faith, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall, as he has been, he shall direct your path. It has been an honor and a privilege having you, and thank you so much for just doing your part to make the world a better place and to help our community to continue growing and thriving. Thank you.
But thank you, Alithia, for having me. I mean, I was so excited because I love, anything I can do to help somebody get to the next level in their life, man. I mean, it's so amazing that you just, I mean, I like how you interview. You did a really great job. So
thank you so much.
Keep doing what you're doing. I think you're very impactful, and this is the beginning of the iceberg. You just started. You just getting started. That's what I see.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Push it. Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.